Am I the a-hole for asking my brother to pay $30,000 for my engagement ring? I hosted a family dinner over the weekend, and my brother brought my nephews 4 and 8 over as well. I used to wear my engagement ring all the time, but lately I keep it in my walk-in closet and mainly wear it for special occasions. While I was cleaning up the dinner table, my nephews went to go play while the adults were still in the outdoor patio/outdoor kitchen area, and my brother was not supervising his kids. During this time, my nephews went into the master bedroom without anyone knowing and started playing with everything, including my engagement ring. When we came to look for them, they panicked because they know they aren't supposed to be upstairs, then ran into the master bathroom and flushed my ring. We called a plumber in case it was somehow in the U-trap of the toilet and not actually gone. But nope. Unfortunately, it was gone for good. We still had the original receipt, so I called my brother. I emailed him a scanned copy as proof of the cost and asked him to reimburse me for the ring my nephew flushed. Immediately, he started calling me an a-hole because we are family and he was just a child and has refused to repay the cost of my ring. I told him I will be taking him to court for this, and now my entire family is blowing up my phone, saying families shouldn't sue each other and just let it go. Edit? No, the ring was not insured. I found out the day after my nephew flushed it. My husband says he forgot, and in the end, never actually insured it. My brother says he does not have the money to repay even $100 per month and has refused any kind of repayment plan. He said I live in a nice enough house, and if I want a replacement, I should just sell my car. My brother, to this day, has not truly apologized. It was a Canadian sorry, not sorry. He said kids will do what is normal for kids, and they shouldn't be held responsible for a ring. But they were supposed to supervise their kids outdoors with the rest of the family while I was busy cleaning up. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. His circus, he's monkeys. He wasn't watching them, so that's on him. 100% he should replace your ring. As for all the family who are blowing up at you, it's easy when it didn't happen to them to preach forgiveness. Ignore them. Also, 8 and 4 are more than old enough to know better. My 3-year-old knows not to touch someone else's things in their home without asking. Choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are expensive. Sorry this happened to you. 8 and 4 are more than old enough to know better. They did know better. That's why they ran and flushed it. This is the most insane part of the story in my opinion. I get it being kids and all, but what the heck is that? What are these kids learning from their parents? Your $30,000 ring wasn't insured? That's the first thing you're supposed to do, because accidents happen even if you don't wear your ring often. They get stolen or nibblings flush them randomly. Hence, insurance. It's not a deal to sue him, because he should never put you in this position. He should have proposed some sort of payment plan, in some way, shape, or form. Since he was a giant a-hole about blaming you, now you're not the a-hole taking him to court. Unless you have insurance and can handle it that way. Not a-hole. Your family's right. Families shouldn't sue each other because it should be being repaid without courts. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my daughter to my wedding? I, 37 male, am getting married this fall and have made a choice to not invite my daughter Bella, 16 female, due to circumstances I will explain in this post. Before people tell me that we should sit down and talk or do therapy, those options have been exhausted and are no longer viable. Me and my ex-wife, Theresa, 38 female, do not have a good relationship. We started dating at 16 and then had Bella at 21. At first, everything was awesome, but then my wife started hanging out with a group of women. Just not very good people, and I refused to hang out with them. My wife started drinking heavily with this group and going out at night, leaving me with our daughter. I didn't like how she was keeping up our home either, as I worked full-time and she didn't. But the final straw was when I was forced to come along bar hopping. Theresa got embarrassingly drunk, then started calling me a loser in front of everyone. This was not the first time she had publicly disrespected me. She had a habit of trying to show off to her friend by belittling me. I filed for divorce the next weekend. The original custody agreement was 50-50, which then changed because I asked for a DNA test on Bella. I had heard rumors and wanted to confirm. My ex blew up and refused to allow a DNA test to be done, solidifying what I expected. My ex went back and got pretty much full custody because I refused to pay child support without a DNA test. And this has been the arrangement for 5 years. I see Bella a few times a month. I do what I can, but I don't have custody, so it's difficult. I'm engaged to one of my best friends, Chrissy, 33 female. We've known each other since college, and Bella hates her for no reason. Chrissy wasn't even involved in my life once I got married. Bella for some reason thinks she's terrible, when Chrissy has been nothing but nice to her. Then recently someone showed me Bella's social media where she blasted us, saying how she had a deadbeat dad. Not true, as I paid for her and her mom for 7 years, and still give her money whenever I see her, and called Chrissy a loose woman in the same post. I was planning my invites for our wedding, and I did not invite Bella. She didn't care for us. She called Chrissy a slur and shamed me on social media, lying for attention. I also don't want drama at my wedding. It should be a fun time, not another event for Bella to hijack. Well, my ex-wife found out about the wedding and asked what Bella's role would be. I told her she didn't have one because she isn't invited. I called Bella and gave her my reasoning, as well as telling her that her post on social media played a factor, so she should be more careful what lies she wants to put out there. She tried to apologize and say she would behave at the wedding. I told her that I knew she didn't like Chrissy or me that much, so why would she expect an invite? She called me an a-hole, and we haven't spoken since. Am I the a-hole? I wouldn't go as far as calling you an a-hole, but don't expect to be able to salvage any kind of relationship with your daughter in the future. Edit, read again and change my mind. If you've been wanting a DNA test for 5 years, that means Bella was what, 11 when you decided you wanted one? Which tells her that you only consider her your daughter and want 50-50 custody if she's genetically yours, regardless of the fact that you raised her from childhood. Weird hill to die on if you actually care about her at all, and weird to expect her to want to get along with your fiancé. You're the a-hole. I mean, do most people consider their ex's kid with someone else they were cheating on you with to be theirs? Some people keep in touch with their stepkids after a divorce, but plenty don't. I don't think that is a weird hill to die on. Bella was apparently 11 years old and living with OP half the time. It's really simple to do a cheek swab and send it in for testing. Ex-wife's refusal sounds like an excuse. Daughter, you're the a-hole just for that. Get a court order for a paternity test before you stop paying child support. You also raised this child, but suddenly she isn't your daughter? That is new depths of a-holehood. Legit, and he's upset that his daughter is mad at him for abandoning her. Of course she's not going to like his new wife. As far as she can tell, her dad abandoned her for a new life. You're the a-hole OP. You are a deadbeat and a terrible father. Info, why didn't you have the courts order the DNA test? That's like standard divorce and custody procedure number 1. Your ex would have been held in contempt if she refused a court-ordered DNA test. This makes no sense. Probably because he was already declared her father at birth, because he and the mother were married. Courts usually do not disestablish paternity unless it is directly asked to, since paternity is already established. I'm going to get trashed for this for sure, but why paternity test is an automatic thing? Sure, it's a happy family event when someone is born right there, but sometimes that can be behind lies. Sure, I know laws pretend to protect the child, but at the expense of whom? Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying just because I don't wear my wedding ring doesn't mean I'm trying to hook up? Forgive me if I spell something wrong. My buddy said to post my story here due to all the backlash I'm getting from a job. I, 41 male, have 2 jobs. One is a full-time blue-collar job where I work with cement a lot just for some background. And the other is a small firm another buddy of mine owns as a part-time accounting associate. So at this accounting firm, everyone else knows I'm married and has been married for 17 years, with 2 kids, 14 male and 12 female. They hired a new full-time accountant. Let's call her River. To me, she has been a crowd pleaser, and due to most of work being virtual, we had a much more lax dress code. For context, for my primary job, I work for 10-hour shifts a week, and normally Monday to Thursday. Then Friday and Saturday I work at my buddy's firm, basically do reconciliations on an accrual basis. I normally don't wear my ring because sometimes I have to go help on a project and have lost many rings in cement without realizing it. So I normally don't wear it when I am working because everyone already knows that I am a married man. The only thing I talk about is my family, construction, and accounting. Then some of the guys at the office were talking about River, how she has been dumped by her boyfriend and is looking for a new man. Me, being the kind person I am, said, I hope she finds a man who would make her happy. Somehow what I said got to her, and she thought that I was hitting on her. And she came up to me and tried to tell me a sob story about her man was insecure about her having a lonely fence. I said that is definitely a deal breaker for most, so I guess she thought I was saying I am an exception. So she asked if I want to record some content later, and I politely said, "No, I am married." She said, "Why don't you have a ring on then?" And I said I don't wear a ring because they normally get lost in cement. She said, "You must want to appear single if you don't wear your ring here." And I said, "Just because I don't wear a ring doesn't mean I want to hook up with some professional." She screamed and called me a misogynistic pig and said she will get me fired. I just laughed and said, "You're selling your body for money. Back in my day, they had a name for those. They're professionals." So I ask, am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. You are not the a-hole for the entire post until those last few sentences. Big for your response to her. It was unnecessary and cruel. I bet it made you feel really big though to belittle someone. It was pretty necessary. She asked a coworker to make adult content with her, didn't take no for an answer, and called him a liar and insisted he wanted to appear single. If she's going to be sensual and pushy, she deserves to be insulted. I bet if it was a man doing it to a woman, you'd be saying the exact opposite of what you are now. Yes, honestly, calling her a professional is basically what she was to OP. She wanted to hook up with him in order to get paid, even if it wasn't by OP. Not the a-hole. Also, she is admittedly a worker who was propositioning to you. What does it make her? The only criticism people can make to you is the wording, but she was the one who started by harassing you at work. You should take the initiative and tell your boss before she tries to control the narrative. I hope he heed that advice. He is now in a vulnerable place and cannot trust her. Not the a-hole. You are not wrong. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He called a spade a spade. She wasn't angry at a time of making money through OF by selling her pictures, but is now angry that people openly associate her with her profession? You stood your ground, man. You are a believer in true gender equality. I completely support you. Same. If I was there, I would have said, "Get wrecked," after that line. Haha. It sounds like he was dishing the same energy she was giving. But I agree. He should let his supervisor know before she does, and this whole thing becomes more unnecessary drama. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking boyfriend of 3 years to not go to a wedding without me? Me and my boyfriend have been living together for a year and been a couple for a total of 3 years. I've met my boyfriend's childhood friend that I'm now posting about several times, and he has always been very kind to me. However, meeting his fiancée was a different story. She was very rude to me, talked only to my boyfriend, and when I tried to be part of their conversation, she told me that my boyfriend used to be in love with her friend, which I had no idea about since it happened 10 years ago before I was part of his life. I continued to try to be kind to her and complimented her engagement ring, asking when they were supposed to get married. And her reply to me was, "When is your boyfriend going to propose to you?" I was surprised and said, "I don't know," and remained silent for a while, letting them keep their conversation going, before asking my boyfriend to come with me to the bar to get a drink. At the bar, I explained I didn't feel very welcome and asked if we could leave. He wanted to stay and we did. I continued to try to be kind to everyone since I don't know most of the people there. I have since then met both my boyfriend's friend and his fiancée again, and it has been fine. However, we recently received a wedding invitation that states that they are getting married this summer. My boyfriend has paid for a bachelor party that includes them going for a weekend in another country. Unfortunately, my name was not on the wedding invitation. However, it was signed, "We look forward to celebrate our special day with you." Since me and my boyfriend have been a couple for 3 years and are living together, we both assumed I'd be included in the invite. But to make sure, my boyfriend asked the groom if it was okay to RSVP for both of us. His friend responded that they couldn't have everyone bring a +1. As my boyfriend thought it was a decision for all of their mutual friends who wasn't married, he said he understood. However, it now seems that I'm the only one of the girlfriends/wives who are not invited. I would really hate for him to miss this event, but clearly the fiancé doesn't like me, and I feel like if my boyfriend went without me, it would be making it okay for her to exclude me for no real reason. I think he should ask his friend why I'm the only one not invited, and ask how his friend would have reacted if it was the other way around and it was them in our situation. They've known each other for nearly 20 years. It just seems wrong to not invite his partner as well. And it's breaking my heart seeing my boyfriend having to choose. Yet, at the same time, I feel as all our mutual friends are going, he should stand up for me. Am I the a-hole? His friend responded that they couldn't have everyone bring a +1. My boyfriend has paid for a bachelor party that includes them going for a weekend in another country. So the person who paid for his bachelor party in another country can't bring a +1? Not the a-hole. They are. And so is your boyfriend if he accepts this behavior towards you. If my friend tried this, I would cancel all the reservations except the flight. They can figure it out when they get there. No, not the a-hole. And Opie's boyfriend should be ashamed of his lack of spine. Not the a-hole. This is BS, and they are clearly isolating you. Your boyfriend paid for a bachelor party in another country, and yet they can't afford to invite his long-term partner. That's incredibly tacky, and they clearly think snubbing you is more important than your boyfriend's friendship. How on earth is your boyfriend not furious about this rudeness to you, and also rudeness to him? Can he not see how everyone else is getting a +1 but not him? Is he not embarrassed? They want to get the boyfriend hooked back up with his old love, the bride-to-be's best friend. Boyfriend should insist on Opie attending, or he should withdraw from the wedding and all the preparations. Anything short of this shows his lack of respect/support with Opie. Not the a-hole. Ask your boyfriend to tell his bestie that it's not fair for you to be excluded when all of the other girlfriends have been invited. If they continue to exclude you after that conversation, and your boyfriend wants to go without you, or if he doesn't stand up for you and have this conversation, he doesn't care about you enough for you to stay with him. Am I the a-hole for opening my husband's safe with a crowbar to get money for an emergency? I, female 31, am a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids. My husband dedicates most of his salary towards the kids and household, but has a safe that he puts money in on a monthly basis. I didn't make a fuss over it, because he said that he saved money for an emergency. I asked for the password countless of times, but he refused to give it to me and said that in case of an emergency, all I needed to do was inform him. He went on a 2-day business trip. Our son got sick and I had to take him to the hospital. The problem is, he needed medication but I didn't have any money except what was in the safe. I called my husband but he didn't respond. I texted him explaining the situation but he refused to cut his trip short and come home. I asked how I was supposed to get money for medication, and he suggested I either A, wait for him till he gets home, or B, borrow money from the neighbors. I just had it. I hung up and went to the garage to grab a crowbar, then took it to the safe and opened it. I took the money I needed, which was about $60, and went to the pharmacy store to get the medication. My husband came home a bit earlier, and when he saw what I'd done to the safe, he flipped out and started freaking out at me. I said I had no choice, and that all his suggestions were unreasonable and illogical for me to even consider. He yelled, saying I breached his trust and his boundaries, and should have never touched the safe, much less used the crowbar on it. We had a big argument and he kept saying that I had no respect for him, his income and instructions. Then he completely refused to speak to me and is threatening to move the safe since he no longer trusts me around it. Was I in the wrong for the steps I took? Should I have tried another alternative? Edit. I didn't have any credit cards because he's the one that normally has them since they were in his name, and I don't have a bank account to be able to own a credit card. Now for the top comments. This is financial abuse. And it's absolutely insane. Go to the neighbors and borrow money? Seriously? If my neighbor came to me and asked to borrow money because her husband left on a 2-day business trip and left her with no money, I'd call Adult Protective Services. I'd ask if she needed help getting to a women's shelter with her kids. It's 2022. Never mind the fact that as the working parent, he should have set up an account for you, the caregiver, with a few $100s for care expenses at all times. But like $60 for an extremely sick child? We live in an age of instant transfers, and there's a huge big box of money in the home, and it says, borrow it from the neighbors? Not the whole times infinity. You and your children are victims of mistreatment. You need to get out, my dear. So much this. Get out. Run. If only it were so easy. That's why people financially mistreat spouses so that they can't leave. Opie couldn't even get her hands on $60 for kids' medicine without taking drastic measures. How is she supposed to just leave the house? I would assume she's socially isolated, especially since she didn't have friends/family she could call for help either. And she might even be in a rural area, without access to services like a women's shelter. I'm not saying she shouldn't start planning and squirreling away what she can, but just saying run for the hills isn't exactly helpful in these scenarios. She should absolutely start hiding away money whenever she can, and make copies of all important documents as well. Frankly, her best bet would have been to clear out that safe entirely and run with it. But she definitely needs to start making a plan to become independent of her husband because he's controlling and that is dangerous. Not the a-hole. You do realize that the fact that he cares more about money and this supposed breach of trust than your son's health is highly concerning, right? This behavior is not normal. The fact that he left you with no money and you have access to no money is financial abuse. Let him move the safe, all the way out of the house along with his sorry butt. Nah, don't let him move the safe. She should take the rest of the money in it and deposit it into a bank account in her name, then kick him out. She'll need the money to live on until the divorce is finalized. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sick wife to deal with 2 toddlers on her own? I'd like to give a little bit of background first. I, male 36, and my wife, female 35, have a 3-year-old daughter. I have a long-standing issues with my wife's sister-in-law because I think that my wife constantly panders to her and caters to her every whim, often at the expense of me and my daughter. Recently, we had a huge fight about her saying something offensive to me in a public setting in defense of sister-in-law at our daughter's expense, and up until this point, she has tried to do better. Now, we've been both floored with flu for the past 10 days or so, negative COVID tests. She seems to have it slightly worse than me, so I've been tagged in to do all chores, childcare, and cooking while she's tried to get as much rest as possible. This has now trickled into a week I booked off work on holiday, which doesn't bother me in itself because I'd rather make sure they were both okay. I am, however, starting to feel really run down myself now. I'm tired. I've had limited opportunity to rest and catch up on sleep, and I'm sore. Today my wife woke up at around 9:15 a.m. I'd been up since 6:30 with daughter and said she was feeling a bit better. I said that's great, and maybe she could hold the fort while I went for a nap. She said that what she was actually thinking was inviting sister-in-law's youngest around for a playdate to keep our daughter occupied. For reference, she's 3. This isn't an uncommon thing to happen. Sister-in-law often brings her kids to us, and for reasons I still don't understand, our daughter was never invited to spend an afternoon with them in their house. I said that I really wasn't feeling up to it today. My wife said that I wouldn't have to do anything to entertain them, to which I was skeptical about, but I agreed. So about 15 minutes after she arrives, I'm asked to get them drinks and snacks and then play games and occupy them. Now, I'm aware that I'd have needed to do this for my own daughter, but going from 1 to 2 toddlers is such a huge leap in terms of the demand on your time and energy. Add this to the fact that I was feeling lousy and it just wasn't a good mix. I'm off work this week, and on top of my illness, I didn't sign up for extra childcare duties. After about 2 hours, I told my wife that I was going up to my mom's house to get asleep. The whole way up, she was phoning and texting me, absolutely furious that I'd left her to deal with it. I'm literally lying in my mom's spare bed writing this now, but my brain is too wired to sleep. Am I the a-hole? I know it's horrible leaving her while she's sick to deal with 2 toddlers, but after so long holding the ball, I've reached my limit. Not the a-hole at all. You told her you needed rest, and she decided to have a guest over? You should have just gone to take a nap as soon as the other kid arrived. God, I wish I had done this, right as sister-in-law walked in. Why would she invite a toddler over when both of you are still sick? The toddler could pick up the flu at your house and bring it home with her. Exactly. And now, OP, you are at your mom's house while ill? This whole thing is an absolute disaster. Have we forgotten the flu can also be dangerous? The whole thing is irrational. If children were going to be doing playdates, OP's toddler should have gone to sister-in-law's, and then both OP and the wife could rest. Not the a-hole. First of all, you are both sick. Why would your wife want to potentially give that to her niece? Secondly, when both parents are ill and in general is a team effort, you should have your fair share of rest. Otherwise, all that is gonna happen is one will get better whilst the other runs themselves down, physically and emotionally. Your wife invited her around, and your wife should look after her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my wife after she woke me up to help with the kids? My wife, Sonia, is a stay-at-home mom to our 2 children, 7 male and 5 female. I really try to help with the kids when I get home. I know being a stay-at-home mom is pretty tiring, even though she has part-time off from school, but helping with homework, making food, and taking care of kids can be exhausting. So when I get home, I make dinner, wash the dishes, and stay with our children for a while so she can have her moment too. These weeks have been pretty exhausting. It is a very important month professionally because in November will be the delivery of a 6-month project that my team and I are idealizing. Last week was the final touches and review of the entire project. So I went to work at 8 a.m., got home at 5 p.m., took care of my kids until 9 p.m., and was actually working until 3 to 4 a.m. to maybe get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I have trouble sleeping. So if I slept 12 hours in 5 days, it was a lot. I was exhausted. I wasn't even driving because I didn't trust my senses to drive. I couldn't vent to Sonia because she was stressed too as our children had a flu. I was dragged to the hospital by my coworkers after nearly passing out for only walking. The doctor demanded that I take a week's medical leave because I was already on the verge of a burnout. When I got home, I spoke to my wife and she seemed to be understanding. I asked her to give me a day off from everything as I would try to get as much sleep as possible that night to come back better. She said fine. I offered to also give her a day off because I know she was tired too. I went to sleep at 9 p.m. and woke up to Sonia nudging me to take the kids to school. I walked with them. I talked about what we talked about yesterday and she said, yeah, but that's your part of the morning and I have other morning plans. Yoga class, gym, and house cleaning. I asked her 3 times more to do this for me as I was still exhausted. 6:30 a.m. But she just said, you're still a father, tired or not. It could be tired or not, but I ended up losing my mind and screaming, I just need a few hours of sleep. Please respect what I asked of you yesterday and let me sleep. She was in shock and said, okay then. She took the kids and I slept until 4 p.m. There were several messages from her saying that I shouldn't have yelled at her for asking me to take responsibility as a parent and that it was toxic behavior of mine. Well, we haven't talked much more than necessary for 2 days. Am I the a-hole? Yes, I could take them, but as I said in the text, I have a lot of trouble sleeping. After getting up and taking them, it would take a good few hours to get back to sleep, even when exhausted. I answered in the comments and I'll put it as extra. 1. Our children stay from 7:15 a.m. until 1 p.m. at school. My wife picks them up from school and stays with them until 5 p.m. when I get home. 2. The things she does, gym and yoga, take up 2 hours a day. When she gets home, she cleans the house, sweeps, waters the plants, washes clothes, makes lunch, absolutely everything in the house. I don't think the division of tasks is so unfair because I'm not 100% the one who takes care of the kids at night. While I make dinner and wash the dishes, she stays with them and we also have family moments. My kids are in the spirit seeing face. Series and movie 8,000 times. I don't think it's that unfair because it's chaotic sometimes. And I know that being responsible for our kids all day is exhausting, so I offer the same to her later. I couldn't put all this in a post due to limit words. Now for the comments. Given the context, not day hall. A doctor literally ordered you to rest, and your wife agreed to help you. If roles were reversed and you took time off work to step in for your wife, you would be the a-hole for waking her up. She didn't respect your valid medical need to rest. Your doctor even ordered a week of medical leave to rest. If this isn't a recurring thing outside of this isolated incident, not the a-hole. I agree. Well, I'm just assuming here, Opie's wife didn't need to go to the gym or yoga if it was just for fun, and could have walked the kids to school since Opie's doctor literally ordered him to rest. It would have been a different story if the doctor had it otherwise. This right here. Also, it appears that the wife gets a 2-hour break every day for yoga/gym. When does Opie get his 2-hour per day break? Not the a-hole. As a rule, I tend to go with you're the a-hole or everyone sucks here when it comes to yelling at people. But while I'm still not a fan even in this situation, it came after trying to be reasonable 3 times. I also usually see the men on here with stay-at-home wives as a-holes because they think their wives should wait on them hand and foot. That's clearly not the case here. It sounds like she has unfair expectations of you. You were literally sick, and she wanted to do yoga. You may apologize to her for yelling, but you standing your ground was not toxic. A good loving wife wouldn't be trying to argue fairness when you're sick from exhaustion. She needs a wake-up call about her entitlement. So let me get this straight. You take the kids to school. They're in school until what, 3? She watches them for 2 hours, then you take over? And otherwise, she does the cooking and housework. Yeah, cooking and housework is a lot, but come on. That's not really a fair division of labor. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband drive my son to school with his step-siblings anymore? Context. My ex-husband and I have custody of our 11-year-old son. He's diabetic, And since his diagnosis is relatively new, we're still working on managing things for him so he could continue to live a normal life just like other kids. His stepdad is responsible for dropping him off/picking him up from school, since his step-siblings attend the same school. The issue began when my son started asking me or his bio-dad to take him to school instead of his stepdad. He said a reason for that is because his step-siblings open his lunchbox and take all the additional snacks that he needs in case he had a hypoglycemic episode. That's what we call low blood sugar. His step-siblings would take his lunchbox from him and take the snacks, and only leave him his sandwich and water. His stepdad thinks there's nothing wrong with sharing, although I explained to him about a millionth times how important his snacks are. He promised that he won't let his kids touch my son's lunchbox from now on, and I believed him. Then days ago, my son came home and told me his step-siblings took his snacks from his lunchbox again. I was enraged. I asked if his stepdad saw them. He said yes, and he scolded him when he refused to let them have the snacks. I lost it. I blew up at my husband and told him that my son won't be riding in his car again with his step-siblings after what they've done. And after he allowed it, I told him that my son's father will be driving him to and from school from now on. He lashed out at me saying that I was driving a wedge between the kids and teaching my son to grow up being selfish and self-centered and antisocial, and also making my son distant from him and getting him to favor his bio-dad. I refused to discuss it, and now he's acting all hurt and disrespected, saying it was not worth ruining the kids' relationship over some snacks. Edited? His argument is that I don't get his kids the same amount of snacks I get from my son. They go through their snacks in no time. In my defense, I said that the snacks are part of my son's diabetes management routine, and he, unlike his step-siblings, needs them anytime. And so I don't feel like I'm obligated or that I should buy step-siblings the same amount of snacks, seeing that they can do without them for a while. Am I making sense here? My stepchildren's ages are 13 and 10. Unless your husband has some kind of rare cognitive impairment, that means he doesn't understand the meaning of medical condition. He's the one who's the a-hole here, not you. As a longtime Reddit fan, my first instinct is, of course, to suggest dumping him, but I'm trying to curb that instinct. Aw, come on, you know you want to. Maybe just this once. You know, for old time's sake. Just joking with you. But yeah, I agree, the husband is either a bully or an idiot that doesn't understand how dangerous this medical condition can be. Even if he doesn't understand the severity of the medical issues, he does understand that his sons are stealing the majority of his stepson's lunch. If he thought it was unfair his stepson got so many more snacks, he could easily pack snacks for his sons. He is definitely a bully rather than an idiot. Not the a-hole, but maybe it's time to have a conversation with your husband about possibly modifying the custody arrangement for your son, because he is neglecting the boy's very real medical needs in a way that can have very dire health consequences. Also, taking all of something is not sharing. Modify the custody arrangements? How about modifying the marriage arrangements?